Good day, ONL-X. It's Coach Kirby, and we're going to learn about our Synergy Sports tool. It provides full array of statistics, tags game video, and it's widely used from the high school to professional level in basketball. It helps our team improve performance and scout opponents. Before we dive into the Synergy app, I just wanted to cover briefly the role of stats and overall improvement. Stats are one part of the overall puzzle for how you're playing and where you can improve. Stats aren't always going to show you things that are important during the game, stuff that doesn't show up in the box score. Hustling back hard on defense to stop an opponent from doing a fast break. Good communication in the key to keep teammates working as a cohesive unit on defense. Bench energy. These are all factors that don't show up in the numbers. That's where film, feedback from coaches, self-assessment, talking with teammates all fit into the picture of how we're performing. It's one tool in the toolbox. Let's take ourselves now to the login screen and get rolling. Okay, so we are here at the Synergy Sports login. I've already got my credentials in there. The team administrator can help you out if there's any concerns or you need a password reset. That's Coach Daryl in our case. Generally, for new players, it goes pretty smoothly. Some of the returning players have had occasionally troubles logging in for the first time for the new season and just needed a password reset. So we'll go right in there and log in, and it'll take us to the Synergy home screen. You'll see on the screen on the left, we have our quick filters. We'll show you how to get those set up there in about 30 seconds or so. They just help save some time when you log in there just to bring up ONL information right at the start. Game screen is in the middle here. This is where you can access videos. And then count information on the right, that's where we're going to go to set up our filters. Green button here for guides and information, and the universal search bar. There's a couple different ways you can pick up teams and player information. The universal search bar is one of the ways. You can just go there, start typing in the name of a team. We can see how ONL-X Junior pops up into the search bars, or a particular player. Say we're looking up Anna Sleep. Information's down here for the players, and we can see Anna's page that we go look at her stats. To set up the quick filters, we'll go up to our account information in the upper right, give it a click, and settings is the one that you want to go on. There'll be a series of parameters you can set there for your filters. Start off by going here on the left-hand side and add a new filter. There's 4 settings you're going to want to set up to get you to the ONL-X to pop up every time you log in. Leak, you want to have high school girls. My information I've already gone in here is pre-populated in some cases. Season is 2024-25, and you can see just a series of drop-down menus pop up here if you click on. Right below season is division, and on division you're going to want to pick G Elite Junior Division, and then finally over on the team A in this case, we'll pick ONL-X Junior. You want to make sure that you save the information and set it as your default. And that's all it takes. So when you go back to the Synergy Sports homepage, you'll be set up with all ONL-X Juniors games from the G Elite League. One final item I'll look at before we start digging into the film and the video is just help that's available on you. The guides and information up here, it's okay. Give it a C+, B-. Generally, you can answer your questions. It'll point you to a chapter in the reference manual, and you can do a little bit of digging and get an answer to your question that way. It's okay. In the lower right here, you have a chat that you can set up with the Synergy team. I found that actually a little bit better. Probably give it a B on that one. Generally, the analysts can get back to you in a few minutes after you ask a question, and they've done a pretty good job of getting answers to me within a few minutes. Sometimes they have to dig a little bit deeper and send something to their operations team. Online information, I haven't found that much good online there. A lot of it seems to be set up for the production end, like setting up camera systems and then compiling the stats themselves. The stuff that Synergy is doing for us as part of our account. If anybody finds anything good, by all means share it on the team chat, and we can all learn from that one. Now that we've got a bunch of the administration done to set up filters, know how to navigate around the page here, we can watch the film using Synergy. On the game page, you have all the games laid out. The columns of scores for the game, points, who the top point scorer was for each team in the rows below. If you put your cursor over any one game, you'll see that it will bring up over here full game video, all the clips and all the possessions. Click on there and it'll take you to the video and launch that one. Standard stuff will pop up on this one. You can set it if you want to. I just hit OK. So we're looking at the viewer with the game on. Synergy does take a game or two to get used to how they present the video. Unlike normal film that we watch where it's just an uninterrupted stream from start to finish with maybe a little bit of clips to take out the time at halftime, this one breaks each play down into its video clip there. Now, on average in a 40-minute game, each team's going to have about 3 possessions a minute, so each team will have about 120 clips of film, so 240, 250 to make up a game. And what Synergy does when they're playing the video is it'll jump from clip to clip, so it'll seem a little bit jumpy at first as it goes through there, but it's also a very efficient way to look at the game because all dead time is taken out. And as the game's playing on, a little loud there, let's bring the volume down. You can see the series of 240 or 250 clips are all down here with some information on what's exactly going on in that clip itself. Custom edits is on the right hand side here. Don't really have to worry about that. There's an editing feature that I used when we had our team meeting on Saturday just to go over different, say, defensive plays, where you can just highlight different sections and create your own playlist if you'd like. Now we know how to launch the video. We'll come back to the games page and we'll show you how to start bringing up different stats for the teams in more detail. Place your cursor over any one game that you want to have a look at. And instead of going to full game video, you click anywhere on the game and it'll take you to the detailed game page. This one I find I like to take a look at some of the stats first, get a feel for what the game is like. Usually a couple days later, you've forgotten, you've played 4 games on the weekend, you have to have a fresh reminder of how did that specific game unfold. Was it a back and forth game? Was it a slow start to us? Was it a strong finish? The games page presents the key game stats at the top. So you have the scores up here, the record of both teams. Then the key stats, very much like in our game reports that we see from our other app, the Breakthrough Basketball app, with how each team did in terms of points, rebounds, and the key statistics along the way. The game flow is the one that I find interesting to jog the memory on what unfolded in the game. As I mentioned, there's about 120 clips per team. If you run your cursor through the point variation, you can see how the menu's bringing up each one of those clips along the way, and it gives you a sense of how the game broke. At the bottom, we get into effectively the same type of statistical reports that we get through the Breakthrough Basketball app that we put into our shared folder. We have all the players this way, and then the statistics along the top columns. You can see that we have a scroll bar here, so comprehensive set of statistics are available. One of the things that's really powerful with Synergy is anytime you see a blue number, clicking on that is going to take you to the pertinent part of the game film where you can have a look at how things went. So, for instance, if you're Catherine and you see that you had a steal in this game here, you can click on it. It'll have our video launcher and it'll bring up where that steal happened in the game. So you can have a look at, hey, what did I do right? How did that steal get set up here? Launches the video with Catherine getting her steal. Normally it launches automatically. I just had it stopped for the purposes of the tutorial. Hit the play button. Inbound play for North Toronto. You see Catherine's at the top of the screen. Ball comes across. Steal. Great job. So we come on back to the detailed games page here. And what we've been looking at in this view is what Synergy refers to as views. Anybody who's used a spreadsheet will call tabs. You can see extended box scores, the one we have up with the game flow, the key stats, and the players' statistics along the bottom. But you notice there's a few other tabs along here, play types, play-by-play. The final thing that a player will probably find helpful to look at when they're analyzing their game is the shot charts right here. And it brings up your classic shot chart. This one is ONL-X's. You'll notice there's a toggle button where you can switch between North Toronto and ONL-X, so the opponent and our team. This is for the whole team here. And if you want an individual player wants to look at their own personal shot chart, you can just come up to the players. So if Jasmine wanted to say, just take a look at her chart, it comes on up. And you'll see information on the right. You can put your cursor over any of the shot points with some more details. And you'll notice by now the blue font. So yes, by clicking on that, the viewer will launch and show you where that shot was for players analyzing how a game went. They can open up Synergy, they can find the games, they can take a look at the video, they can look at how the team did through its general stats, they can look at their own stats, the good things, and I would certainly encourage looking at the negatives like the turnovers, because that's where the real learning is going to take place. Coach Court has a really good way of looking at when a mistake is made on the court and talking players through it. It would be like, well, what did you see when leading up to that decision there? I mean, nobody wants to make a mistake on the court. Then, what was a better option that you could have made in the situation that you faced? That's where looking at the game film is so powerful. You can go back, take a look at what happened, reflect on what you were seeing, and then see what some of the better options were, and then use that as learning to get better the next time. We're going to come back to the detailed game view page here, and we're going to cover just a few more of the remaining tabs along here. Won't spend a lot of time on them. The remaining tabs, by all means, encourage players to look at it. I mean, you can look at anything, but these tabs are probably more of interest to the coaches as we analyze how the overall team did in a game and do scouting for upcoming opponents. When you look at the play types and open it up, Synergy will break each one of those possessions down into a different category of play type. Each team has about 120 possessions. You can see in the North Toronto ONL-X game, it was slightly under 240 clips, 221. And then we'll break those into, well, what type of play was there? How many plays were in transition? And there's subcategories of those ones here. How many involved pick and roll action? How many involved cuts? Spot ups. Spot ups is just kind of a synergy term for you're in a spot on the court and you took a shot, or you're in a spot on the court and you made a one-on-one type move and then did a shot. This is in table format, but one thing I find helpful is to put it into graphic format. And so if you come over to the right side, you got to see table and you got chart. So if you click on the charts, what it now does for those plays is you're able to start seeing where the concentration of each team's plays were throughout the game. You can see that both North Toronto, because it says both teams on here, ONL on top and North Toronto in the bottom bar, had about an equal number of transitions. It does show you, though, the PPP, points per possession, and what the effect was of these overall. So while we had the similar number of transition plays, ONL-X had 0.429 points for each one of those transitions, and North Toronto had 0.333. So we got more out of the transitions that we made. Not as much action for some of these categories here until you start to come down to spot ups, shots. No surprising that that's a bigger one there. ONL had a little more effect on our shots than North Toronto did in terms of possessions. Cuts, not too bad. North Toronto more out than us. Offensive rebounds. You can see now this is one of the things we'll look for is patterns. Like, okay, where there was a separation between the two teams. ONL-X out rebounded North Toronto in this game here. Not a surprise to see that we had more offensive rebound plays, but North Toronto got more points for the ones that they did have out of it, 1.2 to 0.765 for us. As I say, this is something that the coaches will look at to see, okay, what was working, what's not working. We start planning practices afterwards. You'll see something reasonably similar if you go to game breakdown, which is actually for the team stats along the way. I've skipped over play-by-play and gone to game breakdown. Here's where you'll start to see the key statistics, assists, turnovers, and everything. And yes, you have the proverbial light blue font. So if we want to look at all 26 of ONL-X's turnovers, click on that 26, and then there'll be a stream through the viewer of where all the turnovers were. And you can look for to see if there's any patterns. Yes, there's a pattern in terms of bad passes for ONL-X when it comes to that. It's got the same type of thing for tables and charts along the way here, right? So you can just sort of see again, similar to the view that we had at the start, but team by team where those different statistics were. Play-by-play is one that you will not use that much. When we were in the extended box score at the very start here, remember there's the game flow graph here? All the play-by-play does is it's essentially like the analyst's journal, and it breaks it down possession by possession, what happened. So it just presents it in a different view format. Starting at 0-0, North Toronto actions on this side, ONL-X actions on this side, all the way through all 221 clips will pop up. We don't use this that much. I'll come to this page sometimes if there's been a bad run in a game, like I noticed a sharp rise or fall. Other team went on a 12-0 run. I don't find it as easy to look at the graphic in the extended box store. So sometimes I'll come here just to analyze, okay, what were the series of actions that led to that meltdown? That's how I use it. One final tab that we have is lineups, and that is not available. We have what's called the insights package. What lineups really brings into the picture is playtime. And that one is a little more complex to add, so you have to pay a little bit more money, all based around the fact that the film clock runs at one speed and the game clock runs at another speed. So an analyst has to take the extra time to marry up and synchronize those two. It takes a reasonable amount of effort to do it. So we don't have playtime minutes out of Synergy, and we don't get things like plus minus figures for games. One final thing now that we'll be able to wrap up on, folks, is just to go look at the individual players pages. And there's some couple interesting things here. So I'm back at extended box scores. We have our player statistics down here. Now, if you click on any one player, you're going to bring up the individual player's stats page. Now, you'll remember at the start where I was talking about how you can set favorites for players. So in the individual one here, you can see there's the star, which you can just click on, and then in the opening game page, when you launch Synergy, you can go to my favorites, and you'll have, if you knock this one off here, Maria will be up there on the favorite. So you can go straight to this sheet here from the game page. A lot of it's got, just again, a different type of view of the stats. Remember I mentioned the play types? Now we can look at the play types here for where Maria was specifically involved in those plays, like cuts and transitions, right? And Maria can click on the blue font and then analyze her own performance. For scouting, an interesting little thing out of this one here is if you go below, you'll see things like on the overall drive direction. That can give away some tendencies for if you're playing another opponent to see if they have anything that you can look at. A unique thing that Synergy brings forward with it is its own particular brand of statistics, many of them centered around assessing shooting performance. On the stats screen, these are going to show up with things that you typically don't see in a box score. SSQ, for instance, Synergy shot quality. This is one where Synergy will tap into its extensive database for the G Elite, determine what a league average expected points would be for that shot, based on factors such as what type of shot was it, how far from the net was there a defender in close proximity, and then it'll come up with an expected points that you should have scored off that set shot. Then they'll take a look at what you actually scored in the game, which is going to be your PPS, points per shot. From there, they'll compare the two and come up with the SSM, Synergy Shot Metric. And this will compare what you achieved versus what you were expected to achieve and show whether you overperformed or underperformed compared to the league average. There's a few other unique stats. There's a combined metric, very similar to what we have in Breakthrough Basketball for efficiency, or VPS. They call it the GM score, or game making score. It does a similar thing. It combines a bunch of positive, a bunch of negative stats together to try and come up with an assessment of what the impact overall was on the game. Check out the glossary when you come across these. There's some good explanations in there. One final feature that I'll look at for the individual players here is if you come over to the view, the tab, the cumulative box, and click on that, and there's a little trick to this one. Switch which one is it here? This is on G Elite Canada. Go to all excluding exhibitions, and you are going to bring up comparisons page, which is kind of neat, over on the right hand side. And Synergy goes through a bunch of analytics and chooses different players in G Elite that have a very similar play style to you, and you can have a look at their game to say, hey, is there something I can learn from their play style? That's in conference. The other neat feature is you can use the drop down menu and pick a WNBA role model who has a similar style of play to you. And there it comes with 5 WNBA players that Synergy believes is a good match or a good comp for you. Now, the one trick I find with Synergy here is theoretically you should be able to pop on the player here and bring up their stats sheet, but it doesn't seem to want to do that. So I find you have to highlight it and copy paste it into the universal search bar here, right? So just highlight that, copy. I'm going up to the universal search bar, putting it in. There is Shiny. And now we have her page, her light blues, in her video that Maria could go look if there's something of her style that I can emulate in mine. So just kind of a final neat little feature there with a little quirk there for the WNBA comps. And that's a wrap on our Synergy Sports 101 tutorial. It's a powerful tool. Part of the toolbox can help take your game to the next level. Whether you're analyzing your stats or breaking down film, use the information to learn and grow as a player and as a teammate. Remember, stats and film are just part of the puzzle. Combine them with self-assessment, coaching feedback, and hard work of practice, doing the right things the right way, and it'll all contribute to your progress. I'm Coach Kirby. Go ahead.